watching Ilya's entire UFC career, this was just the icing on the cake. I mean, you think knocking out Volk and then then you knock out Max Holloway in the next fight. It's like, this guy is about as real as it comes. And I really don't.
86 kilograms to 92. Sadulayev drops from 97 to 92. And everyone wants this match. We're getting it round one. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Pins and Punches podcast. I am your co-host, Tanner McHugh, joined as always with my good friend, Josh Derrick. Coming off good weekends for us, Josh. Browns win. Who would have thought? They put in they took.
I always love seeing the Ravens lose. So yeah,
dude, I know.
The one time I like seeing the Browns win is when they beat the Ravens.
It comes full circle to podcast. I think that's when we talked about that. But yeah, who would have thought they'd take Watson out, who literally was playing like the worst quarterback in NFL history. Well, he didn't get taken out. He got hurt. And then, yeah, I mean, the Steelers looked incredible. Well, it was kind of slow at first, but I honestly don't mind slow NFL games because it's pretty calculated and it's kind of fun to analyze that side of it.
For Steelers standards, they did look incredible.
Then like the second half, I was like, man, they look all it's funny. The head coach said we have to win on both sides of the ball. That's just the kind of team we are. And they definitely did that. I would say.
Yeah. And, it was funny because it was a classic Steelers game. Even at one point, you feel like they got it in the bag. They find a way to make you sweat out the final minute until Beanie Bishop gets a game-saving interception or a game-sealing, I guess you could say. But, yeah, there were points when I'm watching that game where it's like, man, this looks like a totally different team. I mean, I think they had 18 plays of plus 10 yards. That's like unheard of, and still like every play for the past 4 or 5 years have just been dinks and dunks that don't get first down. So it's like when you're seeing that many plays of plus 10 yards, it's like this don't even look like the same team. But yeah, it was really fun to watch. And even though it's something to complain about, I like sweating out a good Steelers game, especially if they win. It's makes it a little bit more entertaining, makes you want to watch even what's normally garbage time.
Have you ever played the game Retro Bowl?
Yes, yeah, I get intermittently addicted to it in cycles.
Yeah. I normally get addicted when I sub in where Casey works. So I'll sub sometimes, and in those off periods when you're a sub, sometimes you have like nothing to do. So I'll get on it because there's not great service in the school, and then I'm like, oh, and then it's. But what I'm getting at is. You mentioned it's more fun when they're close games sometimes. And sometimes in Retro Bowl, you just start murdering teams because you're just so good that you're like, maybe I'll just start a new season so I suck a little bit and those games get close again. That's what it's kind of like.
I just sold the farm in Retro Bowl. I had all my all-stars retire, put who I needed to in the Hall of Fame, and now I'm trying to do a whole season and win a Retro Bowl with no star players.
Oh, dude, I've tried that before, dude. Dude, it's fun. It's so frustrating at times, but it's fun. It's so fun.
Wow, I can't remember the last time this game was difficult. Like
but UFC this weekend.
Yes,
I can't wait to talk about it. I've seen a lot of the highlights of the main card. Probably shouldn't talk about the main fight right away, but I say we do it.
All right,
dude. This is one thing that this fight made me realize about the UFC. And there's the Mike Tyson quote about everyone's got a game plan to get punched in the face or jaw, whatever it is. I feel like Holloway had such a great game plan the entire fight, and then it just all like in wrestling, there's a pin that can do that. Yes, there is, but you can game plan around what a guy's really good at with pinning. But it's hard to game plan when a guy just gets you tired and knocks you right out, dude. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a super competitive fight.
It was awesome. So awesome.
And, what I saw was there were moments where it was like Max is like getting ahead in terms of momentum, where it looked like he was, angling to maybe win a decision if it went the distance. But during that round, when Ilya gets in that kill zone, I mean, you saw what happened. You saw what happened with almost every fighter that he's fought, except for Josh Emmett. While he did score a 10-7 round against Josh Emmett, he didn't knock Josh Emmett out. That just goes to show you how tough that guy is.
Emmett just has a hard head.
Yeah. But to knock out Volk like that, to knock out Max Holloway, the first guy in the UFC to ever knock out Max Holloway, I mean, this we're just dealing with a completely different animal. And a lot of people were saying that Alex Pereira has fighter of the year in the bag. And I would personally give him like I would say Alex Pereira is probably going to get it, but Ilya Taporia is really making his case to knock out the two greatest featherweights of all time in back-to-back title fights. I mean, Ilya is carving out what is one of the most incredible UFC careers already at 16 and 0, and only on his first title defense. But yeah, it was one of my favorite title fights that I ever watched because of how competitive it was and because of how spectacular the ending was.
I feel like the whole card was just really good. I'm not sure you would know a little bit more than me, but I feel like the odds, everyone who had was favored on the main card won, right? I'm pretty
I
sure.
I don't. I'd have to look at it, but going off, uh, yes, it looks like yeah because yep. I think all the favorites won.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Chimaev had a pretty nasty one, didn't he? A win,
That was
dude.
one of the grossest injuries I've ever seen.
I kind of
Did
felt
you see the
bad
picture?
because I did not see the picture.
Could,
I heard about that one.
could we get a live reaction to the picture right now? I could send it to you.
Let me see. I could probably type it up. So if I type in Chimaev, what?
It
Well,
well look up Robert Whitaker's teeth.
oh man, I see this thing with the teeth. Is that what it is? Oh man, dude.
Yeah.
How does that even fucking happen? I
So it
don't
was
even
a
know how you
face
fix
crank.
that.
Well, it
Dude,
was
that
crazy because when we're watching it, it looks like he's about to get him in a rear naked choke, but he's not under the chin. And then so he has him in a face crank, which normally it takes a little bit for them to tap, but he tapped immediately. It was so quick. It was like, wait a minute, what happened? Like,
it's
like
just one of those pains.
yeah. So, but it was the teeth, just the arm on the teeth, the squeeze, and it just I think it didn't just break the teeth. I think it actually broke the bones that the teeth are connected to in the jaw, and that's what made it go back.
What?
So yeah,
Whoa.
that's going to be a lengthy recovery.
Dude, and Whitaker looks like such a bad dude. So like what
He is
a
a
kind
bad
of an
dude.
epic way to go out, I guess, if you're gonna go out. Like,
Yeah, I mean
oh
it's
my
that's
gosh.
gruesome.
Speaking of epic dudes, the Magomadov, the dude with that's blind in one eye or doesn't
Yes,
have an eye.
yes,
Dude,
yeah.
is it true? Can he not fight in America because of that?
So I think I heard whisperings of that. I can't
Okay,
remember
so you know what I'm
exactly.
talking about. It's like
Yes,
something with
yeah,
the fighting league.
yeah,
Um, but since the UFC is the UFC, like that their workaround is to be in different countries for
yeah,
them.
with like a different commission that'll
Yeah,
allow it to happen.
which I didn't even
Because
know that's what I thought the UFC was like its own commission and everything. I didn't realize they follow different like countries, I guess logic or ethics behind it or
it even
whatnot.
goes to the state level, like the New York State Athletic Commission is different from the Nevada State Athletic
Oh
Commission.
wow.
There was
Okay.
I think it was in the John Jones fight that was at Madison Square Garden, they had him cut toe tape off because in the New York State Athletic Commission the toe tape wasn't allowed, whereas it's allowed in like the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Like there's
Oh
different
wow.
rules. Like they're generally the same and they have like a uniform, like certain things that are uniform, but they do have their nuances. But yeah, so I know Bisping lied to the UFC for a while when he was going blind in his
Oh
one eye.
Jesus.
And he fought with one eye. I forget exactly how many fights he fought with one eye, but the UFC
Like
didn't know.
Rocky, dude.
Yeah.
That's like Rocky too,
So
essentially.
so yeah, because Shara Bullet Magomedov's eye is much more obvious that he can't
Yeah,
see
it's
out of
like
it because
totally
it's
gray.
yeah. So yeah, I think it does have something to do with him. I can't remember if he ever fought in the US, but I don't I do remember hearing that that would have been an issue.
I saw a post about it, but you can't always believe some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured I'd ask you, and I feel like it might be a little too ridiculous to ask of his 15 fights if you know if he ever fought in America, but um yeah, it's just interesting. I mean, kind of a cool backstory. The post I did see said right now he's killing it, obviously, but how it
Yeah.
will affect his long-term career. I don't know, dude. If he makes money for the UFC, they'll make it work. Like,
I think I think
honestly.
he already has a movie role. I think he already filmed like as a pirate in a movie or something like that.
Oh, really?
I think I heard that. I'm I'm
Maybe as a
looking at where
pirate.
he
That's a.
fought right now, and no, he has never fought in the U.S. He
Please tell me
fought.
he wore an eye patch in that movie. Oh
I
my
I
gosh.
hope so, and I hope he opened it, and it was
Oh,
like
dude, he had to. Pirate movie, like that's such a missed opportunity.
it looks like he fought his first four fights in China, the next three in Russia, one in Brazil, two in Russia, Thailand, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and then the last two have been in the United Arab Emirates. So yeah, he's
Is
never fought in America.
is that from that website where like most of their fight like their records are on and everything?
So I normally reference Tapology and SureDog, but I
Tapology,
just
that's what,
I
yeah.
just went on Wikipedia because it was the quickest link, and I know that they have the locations of all the
Yeah.
fights in one of the sections.
I hope no one roasts me for this, but dude, Wikipedia is starting to get awesome with like fighters and
Yeah,
even wrestlers. Dude, Jordan Burroughs has almost 200 wrestling matches internationally, which is no, he is over way over 200, which is kind of crazy for international wrestling because they just get done their college careers. Normally they like maybe will wrestle 10 times a year. Then just because worlds qualifying process and the qualifying process doesn't even count for international. But Wikipedia had every single match listed for them, which for wrestling is like crazy that they have that level of data. So what I'm getting at is some people are starting to really care about some of these sports, which I
yeah.
don't mind at all. But what I'm getting at is for college wrestling, if I ever refer to someone, WrestleStat is what it's
Hmm.
called. That's like they have every single match of all these college wrestlers. It's incredible how much data there is now. And it's so easy to look up. I'm on it when the college wrestling season starts. I'm on it all the time looking up like, oh, who did this dude from Oklahoma University? He wrestled this kid from Ohio. Oh, this Ohio kid lost to this Penn guy. Like that's the rabbit holes I go down
It's
for
funny you
it.
bring up that website because I'm pretty sure that was the one I did all my lightning research on when I did your fantasy wrestling. Uh,
That's
because
definitely it. Definitely
yeah,
it.
because I
Dude,
was
you're
looking
probably
up
did
all
better
these.
than some people who think they know college wrestling. So
Yeah.
yeah, that website's awesome. Um, but I guess kind of go through anything else that like really highlight you. Obviously the Holloway fight I had to talk about right away just because it was just so intriguing to me how the fight went and it probably went how some people expected, but I just thought Holloway looked impressive for how it
Yeah.
ended either way. So
Yeah, he
um
certainly did. Yeah, it was he looked about as good as you could in a loss where you get knocked out.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and but
That's
I mean that
UFC. That is
yeah,
like
right.
picture perfect UFC fight main event, honestly.
And like I said in the last episode, I would have loved to see Max get the belt. You know, I'm a fight fan, and if you're a fight fan, you're a Max fan. It's pretty much how it goes.
Great for the
But
sport
or exactly,
organization, yeah.
exactly. But at the same time, I just love undefeated champions, and watching Ilya's entire UFC career, you know, this was just the icing on the cake. I mean, you think knocking out Volk and then I mean, then you knock out Max Holloway in the next fight. It's like this guy is about as real as it comes, and I really don't see who's going to beat him. I mean, the next guy up, I mean, you probably get the Volk rematch, but the next guy after that is likely Diego Lopez. And I'm not saying he can't do it. I mean, this is the fight game. Anybody could win on any given night. But I really don't see anybody beating Ilya Taporia for a very long time.
Yeah, Tapore Tapore is kind of doing what I wanted to see McGregor kind of come back and do. Like
Mm-hmm.
it kind of gives me that a little bit of vibes, just that knockout power.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to refer to that, but that's kind of always what I wanted, and that level of fight is what I always kind of wanted to see from someone. So Tapore is kind of come like a favorite for me, which is saying a lot. What um is featherweight where Cejudo fought at?
So
Because I know Cejudo's a little guy.
he fought in I think flyweight and bantamweight. I wasn't
Oh,
around
okay.
for his heyday. But I because I think I started watching a few months after he retired for the first time, or
Didn't
like
he fight in that COVID fight
I it would have
where
been
there was like no one there?
the only fights I watched with him, I watched when he fought Aljo when he came out of retirement,
Hmm.
and then I watched when he fought Merab Dvalishvili.
Okay.
Those are the only two fights that I remember, and they were both at bantamweight.
Do you know Cejudo's like wrestling history?
I know he was an Olympic champion.
Yeah.
That's
Do
why
you
they
know
call him
like
Triple C.
so? Jordan Burroughs, who I reference a lot. Before Jordan Burroughs got on the scene, it wasn't that USA Wrestling was bad. Like we would get medalists and things like that, but we're nowhere like now we're competing for team world and Olympic titles every 4 years, every year. Um, and Cejudo, like his weight class was loaded. And when he went to the Olympics, like besides people in Iowa and Cejudo's camp, no, like I can't believe like he's one of those guys where it's a true Cinderella story that he won.
Mm,
Like his Olympic title is crazy that he won. He was super young too when he did it. Like he never did college wrestling.
mm.
Right after high school, he just went to the Olympic Training Center and clearly it worked because he became an
Yeah.
Olympic champion. But his story is always really cool to think about because USA really wasn't at where it is now, where we are producing those world and Olympic champions and stuff. And he just kind of came out of nowhere. Like he came out of nowhere to where other countries are like, hey, remember that American dude who like just won it all that 1 year? Like that's the level of what it was like. Kind of won it all and then was off the scene, which is crazy. Probably helped him with his fighting career too.
Oh yeah.
They probably bring that up every time, right? I mean, you
Yeah, oh
know it.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Um,
because like when you win, I mean, to win an Olympic gold medal is one thing. To win a UFC belt is another thing, and
yeah,
then to win a UFC belt in another weight class is
dude,
a
three
whole other
things.
thing. So
That's
it's
three
like
things right
it's
there.
yeah.
That's three whole things.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. He's one of the most accomplished martial artists in history. So yeah, it sucked to see him come out of retirement and drop two against, I mean, two of the best bantamweights in the world. I mean,
Yeah,
one former champion, one at the time not a champion, but current champion right now, Marab. So you know he still came back and fought the best of the best, and unfortunately dropped both of them. But yeah, I wish I would have got to see his initial like
yeah. We both
rise
just
in the
kind of just
UFC.
missed it, really.
Yeah.
But I guess before I move on to some world stuff, anything else you kind of want to talk about? You good with kind of moving on, or
Well, I had a few points I wanted to bring
go
up.
ahead, man, fire away.
Start with some bad news.
Oh
We
boy, from the
had
card.
yeah.
Oh no.
The first fight of the night, a guy that I brought up on the last episode, Renat Fakhretdinov, won the fight, but he didn't. He won on the scorecards, but did not win the fight.
Man, three
One
decisions
judge,
in a row on the prelim card.
yeah. Renat Fakhretdinov, one of the judges scored it 30-27 for him, meaning that he thought Fakhretdinov won every round. I would have likely scored it 30-27 for the other guy. I
Mhm.
could see a 29-28 for the other guy,
Yeah,
Leal. But Carlos Leal, he was making his UFC debut against a really highly touted prospect, and I thought he won the fight. And it was one of those things where some of the judges, you know, there was talks, and you don't know how serious this is, but there are talks that maybe there's a little bit of bias towards certain fighters in certain areas when they fight, and you hate to think of that as a possibility, but the numbers don't lie. He didn't
yeah,
win the fight, but one judge said that he won every round, and you just absolutely hate to see it. And I wanted Fakhretdinov to win the fight. You know, I talked about him on the last episode. I like the way he fights. I like him as a fighter, but he didn't win.
yeah.
So you absolutely hate to see that. And that was the first fight of the night. Not a good tone setter, but um,
Hey, for the people watch at home, we've talked about this a good bit, but so I know how it's kind of scored like boxing and everything, and there's three judges, and you need to basically have two of them go your way, correct?
yes, yep,
Just for I knew that, but also wanted to clarify for myself and just people watching. All right, so
yep.
as you were.
So one of the other sad pieces of news about a guy that I brought up on the last episode, Chris Barnett, had something incredibly unfortunate happen to him. As if
Oh,
he
our
hasn't,
boy.
yeah,
Oh, how can I forget about Chris?
the fan favorite. So he
Oh
was making
boy.
his return after like a 2 year layoff, and you saw it when it happened, but you're like, maybe he just tripped during the Bruce Buffer like announcement. You know, when he's announcing both of the fighters' names, Chris Barnett, um, he jumped up, stomped his feet on the ground, and injured I think his hamstring
Dude,
before
I
the fight
always
started.
think that. I'm dead serious. I always think when fighters do that jump or like knees to chest or whatever. I honestly I always think like if I'm a fighter, I'd probably do that too, just like one last little warm up. But I'm also like, that ring doesn't look like there's blood, sweat, and they wipe it down. But dude, it's I always am like, I wonder if anyone's ever slipped on that thing.
Well, it was more of like the impact did something because he did have an Achilles injury, and at first, because later on in the fight he threw a kick and it looked like he tweaked it even more, and he couldn't get off the fence. Like he was injured. He would try to walk forward, and he was just walking like his leg was
Is it
broken.
sad I'm loving him more that I hear
Well,
like that he had
I
an
mean,
injured leg and he still decided to kick with it?
well, I mean, you got yeah. He's a beast. His name is Beast Boy.
Yeah.
That's his nickname. But it was so unfortunate because when it happened, you're like, wait a minute, did he just hurt himself? And you're thinking, no, no, no. He
No,
just
no.
like tripped. He fell against the fence. We're good. We're good. But then when he tweaks it in the fight, and then he's walking like his legs broken, and then it was just a matter of time before he got put out by Kennedy and Zechiku. Um, it was just sad to see because especially after a 2 year layoff, you don't want to see a guy get injured right before the fight starts and then just get whopped for the rest of
Yeah.
the rest of the fight. So that was unfortunate,
So he
but
didn't slip, but he like kind of
yeah, it was
stumbled a
more like
little
he
bit.
jumped and then like the impact on the
Oh
ground
man.
and then he like stumbled backwards.
Yeah, if I was
It's
that big, I ain't doing that either. But
yeah,
I don't
so
know. Maybe
that
yeah.
sucked to watch.
Man,
But
no Aspinall fight for him.
yeah. The good news is that 5 of the 6 undefeated fighters kept their zero. The only one that lost it was Rafael I can't say his last name. But he lost it to Ibo Aslan, the Turkish power, as he calls himself, in less than a minute, in 51 seconds.
Yeah, I see
So
that.
yeah, that was it was I think it was a standing TKO.
So do you say
Um,
that I remember you hyped this one up.
the feature
I mean,
prelim.
obviously it was a 51-second knockout, but I'd say that lived up to the hype, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was a perfect way to end the prelims and to kick off the main card. But the best fight on the prelims and the fight that won fight of the night, which means both fighters get a 50K bonus, was Muktabek Orobai versus Rebecca.
The guy with the E with the little leg underneath it.
The E with the
So
oh
it's like a E, it's like an E,
yes,
and then there's like a little
yeah, yeah.
swiggle under it. But from
Yes.
I'm not
R-
zoomed in, but it looks like an
Rumbetsky.
extra leg on the E.
It looks like Rebecca, but it's pronounced like Rumbetsky or something like that. Like it's not
Rubetsky.
like the phonetic
Where's he
English
from?
pronunciation.
What's his flag?
Oh, I think is it Poland? I think he's Polish.
Okay.
But he ended up winning the fight. But Oralby was an absolute dog.
Oh yeah,
I
you
mean,
were talking up Oral by.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay, I do remember him.
yeah. So Oralby, I mean, he lost the fight, but he got his eye absolutely destroyed. And there were times where you thought fight's over, it's about to get waved off, but he just fought back, pulled it out of the fires of hell, and just kept fighting. And it ended up going to a decision, and Rumbetsky ended up winning. But that fight, well deserved, earned fight of the night for both guys.
Awesome. Awesome.
Oh,
Real quick before you go, I don't even know if you know this, but I see this one dude who lost. Looks like another Raphael. Uh, is
Dos
32.
Anjos.
Yeah, is 32 and 17, which is 49 matches. Do you know who has the most matches in the UFC?
It
Because
is.
49 is, well, they might not all be in the UFC, but I guess professional fights.
I think it's Jim Miller.
Oh, okay. Really?
I think it's Jim Miller because I watched Jim Miller and Cowboy Cerrone fight in real life, and whoever won that fight got the all-time wins record.
All right.
So, and then Jim Miller ended up winning the fight. So I think he has the all-time wins record and the all-time UFC fights record. I don't know who owns like the most MMA fights, but in terms of like fights in the UFC, I believe it's Jim Miller that has the
Okay.
most.
Yeah. Because that other guy might not even have close to that. That's just how many professional fights he's had. Yeah, Jim Miller has 55, I think, professional fights. But back to highlight. It just made me curious because you don't really see records that high.
Yeah, I mean, I
32
think
and
he made
17. Holy shit.
I think he made his debut in like 2004 or something like that,
Good for
like
him.
early 2000s. Yeah, he's
I
still
mean,
kicking
even
it.
Holloway doesn't have like that high of
Yeah.
numbers, and he's been around a while. So
Well,
that's a
I think Rafael dos Anjos, I think he fought on his 40th birthday.
oh, good
So yeah,
for
he's been
hell
around.
yeah.
Yeah.
I respect that.
Yeah. Messed up his knee pretty bad in the
Hey,
fight.
hey,
So
he's
yeah,
40 something.
yeah, it
I'd be messing
happens.
my knees up too.
So I don't know if you saw the way that the Shara Bullet Magomedov fight ended, but it ended in a double spinning back fist.
Oh, I saw it. I
Yeah,
saw
so
that.
it
Dude.
was incredible.
Oh, what a sick move,
You have
dude.
one blocked, and then the other one just comes around, and it is game over. It was one of the sickest sequences I've ever seen in a martial arts fight. Looked like something out of a video game.
Button masher. It's literally
Yeah,
what I was just
literally.
thinking. Just mashing the A button.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then after that, I do owe an apology. I said that I wasn't a fan of the Lerone Murphy Dan Ige matchup because I wanted a more favorable matchup for Dan Ige after taking the fight on a few hours' notice against Diego Lopez. I owe an apology for that take because Lerone Murphy was ranked 12 and Dan Ige was ranked 14th. So that's about as like
Oh,
even
okay.
of a matchup as you're gonna
Hey,
get
that
in
stuff
terms of the
happens.
rankings.
That stuff
Yeah, so
happens.
I wasn't aware of their rankings at the time that I said that, but after looking at it, it's like, yeah, that fight makes sense because it gives him the opportunity to move up. You
Yeah,
know, he's
yeah,
not
yeah.
fighting down. So and it's not too high up. It's two spots ahead. So yeah, no. In retrospect, I think that was a good matchup. But yeah, Lerone Murphy ended up keeping his undefeated record, and he's looking to maybe challenge Taporia at some time.
Oh,
So
he probably has to win what, two more, maybe even more
yeah, it
if he's
depends.
12.
Sometimes it gets a little wacky, but yeah, it's probably somewhere around that. Yeah.
What's the biggest gap you've seen, like from champ to fighter?
Well, that the Alex Pereira versus Khalil Roundtree fight. Khalil Roundtree was ranked eighth,
Oh,
so that
that's
was
pretty. Yeah.
yeah. I mean there may have been wider
Yeah, yeah, I was just
rankings,
curious
but
what you've seen. Yeah.
yeah, out of what I've seen, I think that was the biggest one.
Okay, nice. Talk about
Um,
the guy who gets screwed all the time,
yes,
Ankalaev.
yes. So Ankalaev, he ended up winning a decision, and I don't see anybody else in the light heavyweight division who deserves a title shot more than him. I think that Alex Pereira, you heard it here first, folks. Alex Pereira is going to fight Magomed Ankalaev next for the light heavyweight belt. There's no other fighter that makes sense. And if somebody else gets matched up against Alex Pereira, I think Magomed should just go fight in the PFL or something because if
Wow.
that doesn't happen, no, I'm kidding. That was a joke. But
Tough to say.
but no. But yeah, no, it has to be him. And I think that's what the fans want to see. A guy who realistically should have been the champion. You know, even he fought to a draw with Jan Blachowicz. I thought he won. I think the majority of people thought that he won. So realistically, he should have held the belt that night. So I think after beating Alexander Rakic in what was essentially a title eliminator, there's no other person who deserves the title shot more than him. So we're probably looking at that early in 2025.
And they've never fought, right?
No.
Okay, sweet. I mean, just based on what you're telling me, yeah, I think so. I think so. Um,
And then we covered the co-main and the main pretty well. So yeah, that's about all I got for UFC 308. It was an awesome card. I loved seeing 5 out of the 6 undefeated fighters keep their zero. That was cool. And yeah, overall awesome co-main, awesome main event, and look forward to see who Ilya's next title defense is going to be. It's likely I heard we're going to get a Volk rematch, and Volk came in the cage after the fight, and Ilya
oh,
showed him nothing but respect.
I love when they do that.
Yeah,
Just
it
come in.
wasn't like a fierce stare down. There wasn't any animosity. It was all respect between both of them. You saw them like palling around before the fight, you know, seeing each other, giving each other like dapping each other up, talking about Ilya coming on Volk's cooking show, cooking
It's
with
not what I
Volk.
thought you were gonna say. I thought you were gonna say podcast for sure, but
Yeah. So, but Ilya said, I mean, if anybody deserves a rematch, it's Volk. You know, he's the greatest fighter the featherweight division has ever seen, and one of the greatest champions of all time. So if anybody deserves it, he does. And I know I talked about last time it was going to be a title eliminator between Volk and Diego Lopez. Starting to look like that's not the case. It looks like we're going to get a Ilya and Volk rematch, and then Lopez is probably going to fight somebody else to have the featherweight title eliminator.
Cooking with Volk.
Yep.
Fuck, why does that sound so good? Jesus Christ. This pulls in fucking views, dude.
Yeah, dude, he's good.
500,000 on his Big Mac talk. All right, with Logan Paul. Jesus Christ, Volk. This is crazy. This is awesome though. Good for him, dude.
Yeah.
Um, that's fucking all they probably think about after the fight is,
Yeah, right.
because I'm sure they go crazy, but they're also competitors and athletes. So, like, I mean, I saw that one McGregor documentary. Like, they don't, it's more about hydrating and eating the right things so you don't feel like shit. But
Yeah.
after the fight, you don't got anything to feel for. You can just eat
Mhm.
like crazy, dude. So that is
I,
just
I love
cooking
seeing
with Volk.
Pereira. I love seeing Pereira after the fight slamming a slice of pizza and then packing a few zins. It's the signature. Oh wait, who did I say? Did I say Pereira?
Pereira
Okay,
packing
yeah,
some
that's
zins.
yeah. That's you always love to see it.
Yeah. Volk, I always forget. He's the guy who did those old commercials too for the promo, his last fight, where he like pretended to be old
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
he was like
yeah,
doing old people things. Like
yeah.
he would be such a fun guest one day,
Yes.
potentially. One day,
Let's see it. Let's
one
see it.
day. Um,
Manifest that. Get that Izzy clip where he's like, I
clip that,
manifested this.
clip that, clip that, clip that. But UFC 308, amazing from what I saw. It was it's everything you want from an outsider, a fan perspective. When you could kind of mesh those areas together, it's truly a great event. So well done again by the UFC. And then when UFC 309 comes around, again, we're gonna be blurring the lines between wrestling and UFC fans with Bo Nickel taking
Mm-hmm.
the stage. We talked about Paul Craig last podcast. I didn't even realize that's who he's fighting.
Yep.
So I think
The
that's
only guy to
good.
beat Magomed Ankalaev.
I know exactly. That's exactly what we were talking about. But we'll get to that in a little bit. You ready to talk a little bit U23 world news?
Let's do it.
Awesome. First things first. USA's women's team got it done, won the U23 world title. Really an impressive run. Um, First, top of the order, it literally came down to one exchange, which, in my opinion, is a huge. Someone who's made documentaries on teams getting national titles and great team runs. It normally comes down to like one big exchange, and that's exactly what it came down to. So Sage Mortimer in the semifinals, I believe, wrestled a wrestler from Japan, and so if she would have was about to get tech falled, was getting rolled to be teched, but there's continuation. So like say I throw you to your back and get like a tech, but you roll right off your back and put me on my back, it's not a tech. It
Mm.
continues. So she got rolled, would have been teched, continued, put the Japan girl on her back and got the pin. And then the next day, Sage Mortimer went on and looked great in the finals, looked real controlled, won a gold U23 gold medal. First medal, I believe, since I believe a cadet world title, I think she said, or maybe even not. Um, but she looked great. But that one exchange with a Japan wrestler, if Japan would have just won that match, Japan would have just won the whole team title. But because of this, USA ended up getting three champs. Yelena McCoy, who's a three-time national champ for North Central, already a staple on the senior level. So it was cool to see her on the U23 stage, bring some veteran talent to it. And coming in the whole time, sometimes with these U23 teams, we don't send our best teams, I'd say. And we kind of saw on the men's side that I'll get into. But the women's team coming out, I was like, this is a star-studded team. We have girls that are just missing out on the senior level, have senior level competitions under their belt. And it showed. We're bringing home 5 medals, 3 golds. Kylie Welker, national champ for Iowa. Sage Mortimer, who I said looked great. Macy Kilty took silver. She's a staple on the senior level. And then Amana Jones, another North Central wrestler. They just look great. And then we had a bunch of other girls wrestling for medals that came a little short, taking fifth. But truly a star-studded team. And like I said, sometimes you don't get that with U23s for whatever reason. Part of me thinks just when it is, a lot of these girls and men are preparing for their college seasons, and some of them win an NCAA title is a little bit more important. So I think that's kind of why. But props to the women's team. I can't remember the last time they've beaten Japan in a world champion. I don't know if they've ever done it. I don't know if anyone's ever beaten Japan in a world championships. Or well, scratch that. India won the women's U17 this year. But Japan's just so dominant in women's wrestling. So to just see USA finally get over that hump in one of our age divisions was just awesome. And all the girls, like Yelena McCoya, dude, just smashed the entire field. I think she teched everyone and then pinned her girl in the finals. She just looked leaps
Wow.
above everyone. So really awesome to see her do that.
And you said that came down to one exchange, that one you described at the beginning. That's
Yeah, I
what
mean
basically won the team title.
in the moment, so Mortimer wrestled date. So the way it normally goes, since there's 10 weights, is they'll do 5 one day and they wrestle all the way to the finals. And then they got away in the second day and they'll do like all the constellation loser bracket stuff to decide the bronze medal matches.
Mm.
And then they'll wrestle the finals and bronze medal matches together. So she was day one. So like when that exchange happened, no one knew it. And then after day two and two, 3, and 4 of women's wrestling, the other half of the weights concluding, if you do the math, that one exchange would have totally switched the trajectory of that team title. So it was props to her, dude, because that was awesome. It was like, man, I can't believe the girls beat Japan. Like, from my perspective, it was just so awesome to see. Um, and then on the guy side of things, I mentioned in my short, with wrestling breaking news, we always just kind of come with a mixed bag. I think part of it's just because a lot of college dudes just try to focus right on the senior level. And the way the process works is, so if you place top 3 at the World Team Trials and you take like third or even second, you don't make the World Team, but you're top 3 and you're under 23, you automatically make this team. So you don't have to go through the huge trials process, which is nice, I guess. But again, some people either don't want to go, like they just wanted to do seniors, or some college guys are just like they just competed here, and the college, like the first opens are this Friday and Saturday, or this
Mm.
Saturday, I believe most of them are Saturday and Sunday. Like, so some are like, I just want to focus on the college style. I don't really want to focus on freestyle or whatnot, if that makes sense. Which
Mm.
I get. Like, if I was
Yeah.
in that position, I don't know what I do, but that's kind of I get their understanding of it. But 2 college guys that did do really well. Mitchell Messenbrink. We'll talk about him a lot more as the season goes on. He is electric, dude, to watch wrestle. Like electric, dude. He is just so crazy. Loves to score points. He's Ben Askren trained,
Oh,
actually.
okay.
Yeah, so he's a Wisconsin boy, but he's Ben Askren trained. Really, really tough. I just love watching him wrestle, not just because he's a Penn State guy, just because he's amazing. Was a national finalist as a true freshman. He took bronze, lost to a guy from Japan that ended up winning it. Um, Really weird match. Only takeaway I have is Mitchell Messenbrink's at such a high level that you don't really see him like push too often.
Mm-mm.
But what I have seen is like guys who are quick from space, like that's how you score on him. Like his hand fight is so good that guys that like are quick from space and get those double legs, like those are the only guys that I've seen beat him.
Mm-hmm.
Which might just be like a weird thing I'm noticing, but um, I don't know if there's anyone who's gonna fix that. It's Mitchell Messenbrink. That every time, like if you watch him 1 month and then you don't see him again for another month, he's just gonna look way better. Like he's just so
Mm-hmm.
incredible. And then Jacob Cardenas, I believe, made his third uh U23 final, which is like wild, like a 20-year-old going up against 23-year-olds in his
Yeah.
shoe. Like, so he made his final, ended up taking silver. So no champs, unfortunately, on the men's side. Kind of a mixed bag. I thought some dudes looked good and still didn't get medals. Like Joe Gunderson, I thought looked really good opening round, then kind of faded. Um, but again, Mitchell Messenbrink, I think, is the best dude on this team and took bronze, but 74 kilograms was just loaded. It always is. And Jacob Cardenas obviously looked good. He is an All-American for Cornell, but recently transferred to Michigan. So Ivy Leagues, you can't compete in sports if you're going there for like law school or grad school, which
Mm.
is a weird Ivy League rule. So he had to
Yeah.
transfer. So he's at Michigan. They do a good job of bringing in transfers every year. So, um, yeah, pretty good stuff
Who
there
who
from
what
U23s.
what country won the men's?
I believe Iran. So Russia technically still can't get scored just because of all the political things. So
Ah,
Russia is like labeled as AIN, which is individual neutral athletes.
I see.
So they would
Okay.
have won, but they can't be scored. So I believe Iran won, which I think this is their first U23 title ever. So that's pretty interesting.
Hmm.
Um, Usually with USA, it's between Russia, Iran, and then Japan normally has some really good dudes, but they don't have the depth yet to like compete at
Yeah.
like all 10 weight classes. So kind of wrap up wrestling news. When this comes out, these will all sort of be concluded, but world brackets came out, which is really exciting. Greco's already basically is concluded. Um, Again, USA just isn't the best at Greco right now. We had our silver medalist at U23s, which was awesome from Georgia descent. Um, but I believe we only won one match at up. So again, senior worlds right now is only 4 weight classes, not the usual 10, because
Mm,
6 of those weights are at the Olympics. So this is not Olympic weight worlds. But
hmm
my opinion, it's just like these brackets are just as tough, if not tougher, if they were Olympic weights. Like some of these brackets are insane. But USA Greco started out really hot. So there's this dude named Benji Peak, who I think would be great for the UFC. But he loves Greco wrestling, so I don't know if that will
mm,
ever happen. But he's one of the few wrestlers that will actually like talk smack. Like wrestling's
mm.
like very humble, which is why I think some don't transition well into UFC. Like weirdly enough. But like he did this press conference once where he called his opponent like right out when he's like literally shoulder to shoulder with him. So I really like him, not just because he talks smack, but he is good for Greco. And dude, his opening match, he beat Iran's very good at Greco, beat their world and Olympic champ. He tech followed them opening round. Um, but then unfortunately lost, and then that guy lost, so he's was done. So
Mhm.
Greco didn't do too great, but we started out hot. Like when that happened, I was stoked. I was like, let's go. Like Benji Peak's doing it. But and then the big news in the wrestling world right now, the men's brackets are out, and these brackets are amazing. I can't wait. They're starting 5:30 tomorrow morning at time of recording this. By the time this is out, finals will be going on. But so first things first. Sadulayev versus David Taylor. Sadulayev, if Russia didn't get banned from some world championships, I believe this past Olympics, he would have broken the record for all-time world and Olympic medals won. He's beaten Captain America Kyle Snyder for USA countless times. Snyder's only beat him once. Um, and David Taylor's came out of retirement, is the head coach of Oklahoma State, decided to come back for this last World Championships, bumps up from 86 kilograms to 92. Sadulayev drops from 97 to 92, and everyone wants this match. We're getting it round one, which in my opinion isn't ideal, but at least it guarantees we're going to get it.
Mhm.
And dude, to say two juggernauts are going at it is an understatement. Round one, they're going at it, and then literally, the two-time world champ, Gassimpor, will be where are we at here? Here we go. Is on the same side as them. So not only is Sadulayev and David Taylor two juggernauts going at it round one, but they could potentially go up against the world champion, two-time world champion at the weight class in the semifinals just to make the finals.
Yeah.
Um, Dude, it's crazy. Like they
What
were
weight is
interviewed.
that?
This is 92 kilograms. So like 100, blah, blah, blah. I think it's 200. It might be like 201 or maybe 198. I
Mm.
want to say it's 92, 202,
Okay.
202. But dude, I just can't like, and even beyond that, there's some great wrestlers, but like in this weight, but they just are stealing the show. These three guys and Taylor Sadulayev. Really wish we could have gotten in the finals, but I'll take it round one, dude. Like the winner of this is gonna win it all, I think. I think Gassapur, defending champ, has a say, but these two are just incredible. Um, Kind of reminiscent of David Taylor's first time. So David Taylor was behind Jordan Burroughs for a long time, couldn't get on the world team, decided to bump up to 86, would lose to Jaden Cox, couldn't make it, and then he finally made the world team when they added this exact weight so Jaden Cox could bump up. Jaden Cox soon to be is retired now. Um, but David Taylor makes the team at 86 kilograms, has to wrestle this guy named Yazdani from Iran that is also could have been considered as the GOAT if it wasn't for David Taylor. David
Mm.
Taylor has beat this dude round one, beat this dude named Krugilev, who is a really, really great Russian wrestler, now wrestles for Greece, wins his first world title, wins a couple others, wins the Olympics, um, doesn't make the Olympic team this year, gets beat by a dude he helped train and become really good in Aaron Brooks, and
Wow.
then basically says he retires, goes off in the sunset to coach at Oklahoma State, and then with training with those guys, decides to bump up to 92, makes the world team, which wasn't easy by any means. And now we might get a match that David Taylor's wanted for years, USA fans have wanted for years, and I'm sure Russian fans want. So I'll be sure to talk about that. And it's such a hype match. So the way this works is normally if you want to rewatch these matches, you have to go on the bracket or search it up. But
Mm,
it's almost impossible to not know the result, if that makes sense.
mm.
This match is so big that if people don't want to wake up, Flow Wrestling set aside a different tab to where if you click on it, it just plays the match. So you can watch it spoiler free, which is just like
Oh, that's awesome.
that just is like a perfect way to show like I'm gonna be up. I'm watching this at 5:30, like whether I have to or not. Um, whether it kills me or not, but I can't wait for it. Um, that's enough David Taylor talk on that. I just can't wait for that match. You just don't get matches like this
Yeah.
a whole lot. But so then Jordan Burroughs draws. So another big drama about this is they didn't calculate the seeds right for this. So originally the draws came out and David Sadulayev wasn't round one. And then they had to recalculate him real quick and they did become match one. But Jordan Burroughs down at 79 kilograms, the 7-time Olympic and world medalist. He will probably have to face his hardest opponent in the quarterfinals, the wrestler from his last world title, Nakoti from Iran. So that'll be a tough quarterfinal match if he makes it there. He'll have to beat there is so many Russian transfers in this weight, like 79 kilograms. This is a weight where it's way harder that it's not an Olympic weight. Like there are so many studs in this besides Burroughs, Nakoti, a bunch of Russian transfers on their side. The actual Russian representative, Magomedov, beat the former Russian starter, Uzumanev, I believe,
Mm.
who was a world medalist last year or took fifth or 2023, excuse me. That is last year. But um, luckily, the Russians on the other side of the bracket, so they won't see to the finals. But there's a ton of Russian transfers on this side. And the fact that Nakoti Burroughs is only going to be a quarters, like you asked the other podcast how many matches they have to win. Burroughs would have to win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to be a world champion. And at least three, probably four of them are going to be like world championship caliber matches. So it's going to be awesome. And in my soul, I really want Burroughs to win it all and then retire right there and then. But I've come to realize just through Jordan Burroughs, like following his career from pretty close to when it started, um, over a decade ago, it's hard to retire on top. So I don't think we're ever going to see Jordan Burroughs win it all and then retire on top because,
Mm.
especially if you medal, the way the process works is you get a huge advantage to make the next team. Like you get to skip so many steps and just have to win 2 matches to make the team again in our process.
Mm.
So it's hard to just like hang it up because you basically have the spot again. So I don't know. I want to see Burroughs win it and then retire on top, but I also don't think he's putting like a focus on that because then it's distracting from training. So, um,
Right.
and then James Green at 70 kilograms, I think is in a good spot, but 70 kilograms is always a tough bracket. I think his first round match he'll win, and then the second one against the Georgian will be tough. But I just think he has a really cool story. Little Ramazanov from Bulgaria is also on that side of the bracket for wrestling fans. Ramazanov is a Olympic champion at 86, so is his little brother, I believe. But anyway, James Green had to get hip surgery and constantly beat the dude Zane Rutherford, who's the returning world champ at the weight. So James Green, coming off hip surgery, looked like probably the best I've ever seen him at the World Team Trials. So James Green gets done college, wins a bronze medal for Team USA. No one really expected that. Had a rough Olympic trials process, then wins silver, and then has a little rough patch. A lot of it due to that injury. But then gets the surgery, says he's done, and then this dude he always beats wins silver and wins gold in back-to-back years. So I have a lot of high hopes for James Green, but out of all our four men's wrestlers, he's probably the one I'm like, I don't know if he wins bonus. If not, I guess the expectations aren't there, but I believe in him. And then Finally wrap it up, 61 kilograms, probably up there with uh no, not up there with David Taylor and Sajjalai, but one of the top first round matches to watch that'll be on early is Ono of Japan, U20 world medalist. Only guy to really beat Marcus Blaze by a really big margin. Ono of Japan, really fun wrestler to watch. Ironically, his favorite wrestler is Cael Sanderson, who is David Taylor's coach. This dude's just electric to watch for Japan, so I'm excited to see him. He wrestles Ugoyev, who's an Olympic champ, but down at 57 kilograms. Um, I'm just curious to see how Ugoyev does because Russia's been banned. He couldn't go to the Olympics, so I don't really know how his training's been. But and he's up at 61, and Ugoyev isn't the biggest 57 in my opinion. I just think he cuts weight the wrong way, in my honest opinion.
Mm.
But they're on the same side as the USA guy, Vito Arujau, who's the returning world champ at this weight, two-time NCAA champ for Cornell. And Vito had a lot of neck problems this past year, but if he's fully healthy, I think Ono versus Vito could be like one of the best matches ever because they're both going to put it on the line, and it's going to be an incredible match. And I think Vito will beat him, but there's a lot of landmines at 61 kilograms, and that's just always what happens at this weight. So um, excited to see it go down. And yeah, even though these aren't Olympic weights and they call it non-Olympic weight senior worlds, this has all the hype for me as any senior world championships. And it's just 2 days. It's not spread across 4 days. It's
Mm.
tomorrow's every single match. Next day's the finals and bronze medal matches and repechage. It's gonna be awesome, and I really can't wait. Like I live, I love getting up at like 5:34 in the morning, like watching these matches, and then like when it's all over, it's like, oh, now I got my whole day ahead of me, and then there's the semis on, and like it's just like a full day of wrestling. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it so much.
That's how I felt about 308 being at 10 in the morning because
Oh,
once
dude,
the
I
card was
know.
over
We
at
talked
like
about that
5 in the
last time.
afternoon, I'm like, yeah, all right, movie time. And
Oh,
it
I
was,
know. Um,
yeah.
Speaking of that, what let's recap the month of October, dude. I mean, it's not over yet technically, but uh did you kind of switch it up or did you still kind of go with whatever looked good or did you switch to really Halloweeny movies near this last week of the month?
So, not necessarily. One, yes. One of them is pretty, it's like a haunted house movie. We'll get to that.
Boo,
Uh,
Haunted House.
Currently, yeah.
If you know,
If
you
anyone
know.
gets that, yeah.
Yeah, if you know, you know.
um, what was it? Right now we're recording this on the 29th, and I have currently watched 29 horror films in the month of
Oh
October.
man.
So we are right on track. We only need two more, and I already know which one I'm going to be watching on Halloween. The question is, which one am I going to be watching
Oh
tomorrow?
boy.
I don't even know the answer to that one. Oh, but here's the good news. I watched no trilogies. I know I said
Oh.
early on
Josh,
before it
no offense, but
started.
that's like the most you thing ever. Like, it's not no follow through. It's just like you did follow through with something. It was just
Yeah,
like the same, but
a
totally
totally
off.
different
Yeah,
method.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it was I had all these but I had all
No
these plans, I had
trilogies.
all these trilogies. I did watch some films that are in a trilogy, like Terrifier 3, but yeah, no, I mean, and I watched the other two earlier this year, but not in the month of October. Not gonna get any trilogies in. Excited to figure out what the because I already know I've already planned on what the final film is going to be that has been in my cards since the beginning. One of my plans from the beginning that I am going to follow through on. But yeah, tomorrow, not sure. Tonight, since I'm already caught up, hitting the sack early tonight, getting a good night's sleep. But
Yeah.
and
Hey,
then
dude, there's
tomorrow,
always November for those trilogies. There's
right?
always
Yeah,
November.
yeah. So to start it out, watched a really cool '90s movie. It was called A Cat in the Brain from 1990. Is directed by Lucio Fulci, who Connell Pendergast brought up. He said he likes The Beyond, which is a movie that I watched this October, also directed by Fulci. But this film kind of broke the mold a little bit. The film stars Fulci as himself, and he's going crazy because of all these gore films that he's directing.
Ooh, a little
So it was
Quentin Tarantino-esque.
yeah, it was super a super cool concept of having like the horror director being affected by his films and
And
like
this movie's called Cat in the
a
Brain.
cat in the brain. Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
It was super
Metaphor or
gory.
literal?
Well, in the beginning of the
If you
film,
don't
there
want to spoil, you
is.
don't have to.
Well, I mean, it's not really a spoiler, and it's a pretty obscure film from what I understand. But if you want to watch it, you could buy it on Blu-ray at Grindhouse Releasing, one of the best. I know
Oh
we mentioned them
yeah.
before. Shout out Grindhouse Releasing, one of the best. Um, but about the cat in the brain thing, there is in the beginning of the film, like during the opening credits, a cat ripping apart a brain.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, it is literal, at least for that opening sequence. But yeah, overall, a super cool gore film, super cool concept from one of the greatest directors that Italy has ever had. So wasn't I wouldn't call it my favorite of his works just yet. Maybe upon a few more viewings, maybe it would find itself there. But he has a lot of cool stuff. So it's a pretty tough competition. But um, yeah, so that was A Cat in the Brain. Followed that up with Frankenstein from 1931, the Boris
Oh,
Karloff film.
good little
Yeah.
classic.
Oh yeah, it's always cool to throw those in. I
It's always good when
just
I don't have to look one up. Some of these
right.
movies, I'm like, I gotta just see what this looks like or read the description as you're talking, but I know that one pretty well.
So it was the first time I watched Frankenstein in its entirety. I've seen the clips, I've seen the images of Boris Karloff. I'm familiar with him as an actor, but I have a bunch of those classic Universal monster films on Steelbook. I have The Invisible Man, uh, Dracula, The
Those are the
Wolfman.
Walmart releases, right? Or no, that's
Uh,
the
that's the pop art.
pop art. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which they did
But the
release those too with these, but
yes,
I'm thinking of something else.
but you know what? Actually, now that you say it, I did buy it at Walmart.
Oh,
Yeah, I
huh.
taught, but the other three, I think I got at FYE or Best Buy, or I might have, I forget where it wasn't Walmart because I very rarely buy Blu-rays there, but I was just in Walmart the other day and I'm like, you know what, while I'm here, I'll go check the movies out.
Yeah,
There
dude,
wasn't many.
always. I always do that. Oh,
There wasn't many, but what they did have a steelbook section, and I ended up getting Saw 10, which I did not see in theaters, but I'm gonna rewatch the entire Saw franchise. I have all of them on Blu-ray now that I just got Saw 10. But yeah, so I got that and then Frankenstein in that same style. It's like a black and white illustrated design, and there's no like title on the front of it. It's just the Frankenstein monster
oh, that's cool.
with like holding the girl or whatever. So yeah, it was cool to finally get that one off the list. A long time coming, an absolute classic. And it's a short watch, so that's what I like about some of those older films. They
Yeah,
don't
they
hang
are.
around for too long. They're a little over an hour, a little less than an hour, 20 minutes. They're just awesome watches, really cool pieces of history.
That one especially really I think it looks beautiful,
It
honestly.
does, yeah,
Some of those old movies like yeah, the black and white's cool, but there wasn't a lot of like attention to detail with like atmosphere. Or that one's got like a lot of atmosphere and the scenery's so cool. I
yeah,
always think like the cat inside the castle stuff. I'm like,
yeah,
wow, that's pretty neat. How'd they do that? Is that a real
yeah.
castle or how'd they
I
get it to
wondered
look
that
like?
too,
Yeah, but
especially all
anyway.
that machinery. Like what is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff?
yeah.
But next, I watched an art film, and I don't watch too many art films. I mean, all film is art in a sense, but I'm talking about like an art film.
Yeah.
But it was a horror movie. And it was, as far as I know, the first Chilean film I've ever seen. Yeah, we're
Whoa.
going to Chile.
Chilean.
So it was a film from 2018 called The Wolf House. Now, this was a stop motion animation film, but it wasn't just like clay models in a set. It was an entire house where they're painting the walls and animating the film with the paint on the walls and things coming out of the walls, and then they have the models and furniture's moving. It was stop motion animation, but it used an entire house.
Wait, wait, wait. So like the that's like the premise. Like like it's a wall or that's just like how
Oh
it's
yeah, no, it's
presented.
like you're watching the movie and it's like there's paint on the walls that's like moving like
What?
like
So
if
it's kind of
this was
like moving hieroglyphics or something like that is kind of how it's
yeah.
presented, but in a wall on a wall.
And there is a narrative to it. Like it's a wacky art film, but like the narrative is that this girl like runs away from this cult and takes shelter in this house
What?
from a wolf, and then these two pigs turn into humans, and she's like taking care of the pigs. But so it's super wacky and avant garde and just surreal. It's one of the most surreal films I've ever seen. but the art of the film, when the way that they made it, it's one of the coolest experiences
Dude,
I've
this
ever
I'm
seen in film.
this sounds right up my alley.
Yeah,
Like sometimes with art, I mean, sometimes with art stuff, it's hard to recommend it, but this actually
yeah.
sounds pretty like cool to watch.
I have seen a bunch of stop motion films. One of my favorite stop motion horror films of all time is Mad God from 2021, an absolutely incredible film. But this was a whole different ball game. I mean, just the medium of the stop motion itself just makes it. I have never seen a film like it. I don't even think there exists a film like it. It is one of the most unique films I've ever seen. And yeah, I'm so happy that I added it to the collection and got it in this October because it is a horror movie.
I mean,
It
yeah.
yeah, it's
Also
and
for the fans out there, I'm a sucker for cult movies.
mm.
So the second Josh said it involves the little bit of a cult, I'm like, all right, I can definitely get in. I'm
Oh,
a
and
sucker
it's
for that stuff.
such an awesome opening, and there is a post credit sequence, so stick around for it. But yeah, then after that, followed it up with a low budget 80s
Of
kind of a
course.
zombie film, kind of a like trapped in a it's like a devil area. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's called The Laughing Dead from 1989. Um,
Oh my God.
are you familiar?
No, no, no.
Okay.
It's just that of the dead shit titles, those titles.
Yeah, so The Laughing Dead was about this priest who takes this like group of people to this Mexican archaeological site, but then gets trapped by this like evil god and like becomes
Oh
this
gosh.
monster. And it was a pretty run of the mill late 80s low budget movie,
So no
but
zombies?
well, there were zombies, but it
Kind of.
wasn't like a zombie movie. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Like
yeah, yeah,
it was like kind of they were like kind of zombies. Like they
yeah.
weren't
Yeah.
like rotting dead people like but it was like you can kind of consider it zombies in a sense. So the ending of the film is so goofy and laughable that it just tied everything together perfectly. I mean, for a film called The Laughing Dead, it wasn't like a horror comedy, which I thought it was going to be going into it, but it wasn't. It had a pretty serious narrative in terms of as far as low budget horror films go, but the ending, it just became a goof fest. It's you're like, what the hell am I
So it was
watching?
off like tone, essentially.
It was like yeah, it just became it was like what is happening? Like how is
Oh,
like how
dude.
is this?
I love a good what is happening in
Yeah.
movies? Well, I guess
So
I don't love it, but I love like moments like now where you look back on it and it's
it
funny.
worked. I should say that it worked. It made the film better than it otherwise would have been. Like if it just had a run of the mill normal horror movie ending. The fact that it got so goofy at the end, it just worked. So
Good.
yeah, it was overall a good watch. I enjoyed it. So now we're moving back to the early 80s, and this one, a pretty controversial film, but all films in this subgenre were pretty controversial. We're talking about Umberto Lenzi's Cannibal Ferox from 1981. Now, if you know anything about cannibal films, they like to push the envelope. One thing that a lot of these films feature that wouldn't necessarily be allowed nowadays are real animal deaths on screen. Multiple animals are either getting killed by people or killed by other animals, and this footage is shown in the film, which could be pretty unsettling, pretty like yikes, but I mean, it does add to the realism. So if you're looking, and it was shot on location in the Amazon. I've seen a couple cannibal films at this point. I think Cannibal Holocaust is the
That's what I
most
thought you were
well-known
gonna
one.
say originally.
Yeah, well, that one is the most well-known for a reason. I think that one is the best in terms of like a movie. But Cannibal Ferox was cool. Umberto Lenzi is one of my favorite Italian directors. He didn't only do cannibal films; he had a really diverse filmography from like crime films to all sorts of stuff. So uh to watch one of his cannibal movies, it was cool to check that aspect of his filmography off the list. I think that was the sixth Umberto Lenzi film I've seen overall. I think I watched 4 of them this
Oh my
year.
God. Umberto just looks like a fucking horror movie director from this
Yeah,
era.
yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah. Every film that I've seen of his is really good, including this one. But in terms of the cannibal subgenre, there do exist better films. One of which he also directed, is called Sacrifice with an exclamation point. That's why you have to say it that way. But if
Sacrifice.
but if you don't feel like yelling it, the alternate title is Man from Deep River.
Oh, gotta love a
So
good alternate title.
yeah, so that's another cannibal film from Umberto Lenzi that, from what I remember, I mean, it's been a few years since I've seen it. I do own it now, but that one I remember being better. But all in all, Cannibal Ferox, a cool cannibal film. You always like to see a film like that where it goes from like taking place in New York City to taking place in the Amazon rainforest, or wherever. Yeah, it was the Amazon. But yeah, super cool. Love that kind of stuff. So then we move to this decade, and I finally got to watch Smile from 2022.
Oh
I
yeah, that's on
remember
my list right
seeing,
now.
yeah, it's on Hulu,
I heard
so
Smile 2 is good.
we'll get to that.
All right.
But yeah, Smile, the original from 22, just watched it on Hulu, and really enjoyed it. It was one of the better horror films of this decade that I've seen, and I thought it was the perfect film to set up a sequel. I really like the shots. There's a lot of inverted landscape shots, which I really dig. It's just something cool to look at, something a little different. Um, in terms of the pacing of the film, that was where I felt if there was any spot where it lacked, it was the pacing. I think things could have been a little bit quicker.
Mm.
Also would have liked to see a little bit more gross stuff, but that's just me. But overall, I really enjoyed the movie. And when I watched it, if that didn't have a sequel, I would have said I want a sequel to this film. And fortunately, 2 years later, we did get that. But before we get
Yeah.
to Smile 2, I watched a shoestring budget film that was shot less than an hour from where I live. Uh, and that film is Hell House LLC, which was
Where was it?
shot.
Oh, yep. Go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah, it was shot in Lehighton.
Oh, really? What?
Yeah, it
Wait,
was.
is it at that so it's I've heard of this movie. It's like a haunted house movie, right?
Yeah, it was shot at the Waldorf Hotel right by Country
Bro, I used
Junction.
to love that place as a kid.
Yeah,
It's filmed there?
yeah, it's filmed there.
What?
Yeah, how
That is
cool is that?
incredible, dude. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So, and from what I saw, I think the film was made for like, I think 30 or $50,000, like something very low, less than a
Yeah.
hundred thousand.
Yeah.
Uh, I think it was around like $30,000, but yeah, it was so surreal because, like you said, I've been to that haunted house a bunch of times.
Dude,
Like,
yeah.
so
That
to
was like
watch
one
a
of my favorite
movie,
memories from Halloween.
yeah, yeah. So to watch a movie that takes place there, and dude, one of the weirdest parts in the entire movie, at least like to me personally, they're driving on this road, a road that I've been on a bunch of times, and outside of this one business, there's like this, maybe I think like a 4 foot tall dinosaur statue. Like the dinosaur's like standing on 2 legs and like holding a sign.
Oh, dude, I know what
And
you're talking about.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a triceratops or something.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
they're driving down that road, and I'm like, oh shit, there's the dinosaur. And during that scene, the guy's like, this road looks familiar.
Oh
I
my
was like, what
gosh.
the hell?
Dude, the scenes like that are really like you always wonder, and then when it happens, you're like, it's just hard to like, it's still cool. Like
Yeah.
where I went to school, there's a horror movie where they shot like by the archway in my the college.
Mm-hmm.
And still it's like, man, I can't believe like it was filmed there. Like it just
Yeah.
blows your mind every time.
The first thing I thought when I visited that campus when we were in like that main area, I was like, this is a movie
Yeah, dude,
college
it just
setting.
always I
It
always
looked
thought
like
that
that.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so other than the novelty of it being filmed in a haunted house that I've been to a bunch of times myself, uh, it was a really good movie. I mean, it looked its budget, like it looked like a low budget found footage mockumentary style film,
Mm.
but it was incredibly effective. I thought that it created a really cool sense of like unease that some big budget horror films fail to do for me. And the mockumentary style kind of keeps you on your toes, like what happened, what's going on. I thought it was paced very well. I thought the structure of the film was good. I thought they did incredible things with what they had to work with. And I know they made a couple of sequels. I think there's like 4 sequels or something like that.
Yo.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to checking those out. Um, but yeah, a super cool movie. It was recommended to me by somebody, and I'm glad I got told to watch it because I had no idea that movie. I mean, I heard that title before, but I didn't know it was filmed at the Waldorf. Like
Yeah.
what the holy crap? Yeah, it was
Of
super
all the
neat.
places,
Right? Yeah,
really.
it was so cool. But yeah, then to wrap it up, just last night, I know I already spoiled it, but I saw Smile 2 in
That's on
theaters.
me. I was asking. That's
No,
on
no,
me.
no, that was um but what was cool was I had the theater to myself. Perks of seeing a movie a little bit after it comes out on a Monday night. You might have the theater to yourself.
Yeah, dude.
So, and I did, which was
Cheap
I
tickets too.
yeah. I got the Regal pass. So
Oh, yeah, you're someone who needs. Dude, I didn't realize how cheap tickets could be like during the day or like a little after. Like I saw Terrifier for $5.
Oh, really?
And I was like, wow, like at a big it was a Regal, so a big like movie theater chain and
Mhm.
things like that. I was like, wow, this is awesome. And I almost
Yeah.
had the theater to myself. So but but
Yeah,
was
I
Smile
can't
2 as good as I'm hearing?
Oh, yes, it was. I think it is probably the best horror film of 2024 that I've seen. I haven't seen all of them. I watch
That's
a lot of old
crazy
stuff.
that concept, I guess, and a title that goofy.
Right.
They handled it well. I'm not like
Yeah.
they handled it well.
The second film, now I'll say this first. It is necessary to watch the first film. You need to.
Okay.
But the second film is the first film, but better in every way.
All
That's
right.
that's the bare bones of it. The
Yeah.
concept itself of having the victim of the smile entity be a world famous pop star, I think that concept alone just adds so much to the idea that was created in the first film. And they tie in the first film perfectly at the beginning, and just the everything that was good about the first movie is good about the second film, but better. They even have, like I mentioned before, those inverted landscape shots that is kind of becoming like a staple of that. I don't know if they're going to make a third film. The ending, I'm not going to spoil anything, but the ending was phenomenal. The way that the film ended and the implications of it, it was
Yeah.
like, oh, like I need a third one now. Like, what's going to happen? Like, so it's not necessarily like a cliffhanger, like, oh, what are we going to do
It's
until the
just a
third
great
one?
ending, but you
It's a
still want more.
right. It
Yeah.
is a great ending that makes you want more, precisely.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that though I can't get enough of those inverted landscape shots, and I like that. That's like a
Inverted.
signature. I know it's like
Dude,
the
now when
third
I
time I
watch
brought
this,
it
when
up.
I see this, I'm just gonna be like, inverted. There it is. There's that inverted landscape. There it is.
But I love that it's like a signature of the franchise. Like they did it in the first film,
It's
did
hard
it
to
in the
do
second film.
nowadays, man. It's hard to make like a signature shot of
Right.
like because everything's been done. Well,
Yeah.
until something hasn't. Basically,
Well,
that's just how
even
movies are.
if my memory serves, Long Legs. You saw Long Legs, right?
Yep.
Remember, there's one where like the camera kind of like follows, like it's like normal, and then it goes on the road, and then it becomes inverted.
Oh
Like if
yeah,
my memory serves, so
yeah.
I like the shot like that. But like in the Smile films, it like starts there, and it just looks sick. I dig it a lot. Enough about the inverted landscape shots
Yeah.
now, but the gore not excessive, but where it was used, it was really good. Um, the scares, they're used well. They're not overly frequent, but they're frequent enough that it gets you in the spooky mood of like, okay, that a good jump scares. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're not excessive, but when they're used, it's like I enjoyed them. And some pretty creepy scenes overall. I went into it like hoping, because I liked the first film, but it didn't necessarily blow my socks off. So I went into the second film thinking I hope they do better instead of regress, and they did way better.
Probably
I
hope you
think.
just watched it too. You
Right,
like
yeah.
almost back to back nights watched them.
Yep, yep. The only one in between, yeah, yeah. The only one in between was Hell House. I watched Smile and Hell House on the same day, and then the following night, went and saw Smile 2. but yeah, overall, I think it was the best horror film from 2024 that I've seen.
Wow. Wow, that says a lot. That says a lot. But there we have it, man. I can't wait to see how you finish it out. We have a hunch, I guess, on what the 31st will bring us. But sounds like you're on a real hot streak right now, so I don't want to jinx anything for your movie marathon. But it's been awesome just kind of learning about all these. But while we're at the top of the hour, do you have anything else to talk about UFC? I don't got anything else wrestling wise, but floor is yours if you got anything.
Well, you know what? I think instead of giving too much preview, I think we will just kind of highlight what we see on the next episode of the card this weekend. I know there's a few matchups I'm excited to see, so we'll see if they live up to the hype. Uh, the next episode, the movie challenge will be completed. And instead of ranking all 31 and going through the entire list, I plan on giving my top 10 so we could go over the top 10 films and maybe just a little bit of rehashing of what I liked about them and why I think you should check them out.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you all for watching another episode of Pins and Punches, episode 6. I love it. We're just moving on, having fun, but take care, everybody.
See you around.